and welcome to Grandad's Reviews. In this video I'm going to look at a theme I've been working on for a little while. I was going to do this video a few weeks ago, but things changed, and that's looking at again Canon lenses on Fuji bodies. And there's been a few discussions on Facebook groups about how well certain lenses work, so I thought I'd do a bit of a side-by-side test. And I'm mainly going to deal with the long telephoto, long zooms from Canon, because that's where at the moment Fuji's lacking. So I got Fuji 100-400 and we're going to put that up against Canon's 100-400. Now in this comparison I'm using the Mark 1 Canon 100-400 because that's the one my friend's got and he's graciously lent it to me. So when we look at these two lenses physically, they're very, very similar. We've got, quickly looking at the specs, the Canon weighs 1,608 grams, 1.6 kilos, or 3.8 pound. The Fuji, on the other hand, weighs 1,480 grams, 1.48 kilos, or 3.4 pounds. So a little bit of weight advantage on the Fuji, not by much though. Closed length on the Canon is 205mm or 8 inches, whereas on the Fuji we've got 225mm, 8 3/4 inches. Open on the Canon we've got 285mm, 11 inches, and exactly the same on the Fuji. So what I thought we'd do is some real life test. So I had a hide booked to photograph foxes, and I went down with my good friend Roy, and I took both lenses. I had the Fuji 100-400 on my X-T3 and I had the Canon 100-400 on the XS10, and I've taken some images and I've recorded the back of the screen on both cameras, so you can see the focus box focusing, tracking, if it missed, if it didn't miss, how quick it was, and we can compare them, and then we can also compare the image quality. Now my reason for doing this originally was because there was a huge price difference between a new Fuji, or even a second-hand Fuji if you could find it, and the Canon 100-400. But just recently Canon second-hand prices have skyrocketed, so now the price difference is quite marginal, especially as you've got to put an adapter on this, which is going to cost you extra as well, so it brings it to a similar kind of range. The only advantage on the second-hand market that the Canon has is that there's not many Fuji 100-400s out there to buy, whereas there's hundreds of these. So really this now is aimed at somebody who's coming from the Canon system and they want to see if it's worth keeping this compared to selling it all and getting into the Fuji system. Because if you've already got this, you only need an adapter, which is going to cost you around about £300. And is it worth doing that? So let's see what we've captured and then we'll draw a conclusion from it. So here we are in the fox hide, just waiting for the foxes to turn up. And what we're going to do, we're going to compare, as I said, the Fuji 100-400 to the Canon 100-400. We've got the Fuji on the X-T3 and the Canon on the XS10. We'll compare the AF speed, how well it locks on, how well it tracks, and then when we get back to the studio with the images, we'll compare the image quality. Now I'm going to have to be very quiet once the foxes arrive, so there won't be much commentary, but I'll add some commentary voiceover when we get the footage in. So let's get started. So here we are, I'm shooting with the Fuji X-T3 and it's got the Fuji 100-400 lens on it. And as you can see, it's acquiring the subject quickly, there's no hunting, getting the green box straight away. and it's locking on, as I would expect with a Fuji lens. So now we go to tracking. So this is to see if it will track the actual fox. So putting the box on the fox, and yep, it locks on and perfect, starts tracking the fox's head. And now again you'll see it just suddenly dart to a more high contrast area, so it's phase 2, and then when it comes down here the grass gets it, and it's caught the grass behind and it's gone for its chest. So it is tracking, but it is having to lock onto a high contrast area, and now and again it'll jump to a zone focusing. But in this situation, I say it's locked on, caught it, and it's following the fox. Again, we're at a longer distance, 100mm, not zoomed in. Zoom in, and then we've got a bird. We've got a buzzard that landed, so I'm going to try tracking it on the buzzard. We've locked on the buzzard's head, but as you see, it stayed on its chest, so that must be a higher contrast. And again on the wings, and it jumps around a little bit, but it is basically on the subject. It's not losing it too much. Further away on the fox, zooming in, and box is quickly locking on. Green box is coming on. And I'm tracking again. A few more objects in between the fox, but it is basically following reasonably well. I've got no problem with the tracking on the XT3 and the 100-400. You're just on AFC single point again. Smaller box, straight on the eye. No issue whatsoever. Right, so we've been shooting with the Fuji 100-400. Now we've put the Canon 100-400 on. So we'll check the autofocus and then the image. So right, now we're on the Fuji XS10 and the Canon 100-400. We're using tracking straight away here, and yep, it's following the fox. Near enough exactly the same as the Fuji 100-400. And here we are just on normal tracking again, and again it's following the fox. Now and again it will lose focus, but it's not hunting. The Fuji lens didn't hunt, and this doesn't seem to hunt. As soon as it's locked on, it's locked on. The green box is there. I'm just in single point here, AFC again, and there it was out of focus when we acquired the fox, and as soon as I press the shutter half down, it's straight on it. This is in AFS single shot. Back to AFC, and it's caught the fox, and it's, sorry for the train, and it's following the fox with the AFC. There's certainly no hunting, and you really can't tell the difference. If I hadn't said that this is the Canon lens, you wouldn't really know. Now and again it'll catch another object, but when it's straight on the fox, it's got it straight away. No issues whatsoever, even with some action. We are zooming in on the fox again. And we'll try and tracking again. We're putting the tracking box on the whole fox. It's locked on. And it's following the fox. No problem at all. And then this final clip. No hunting, straight on, green box. No problem at all with the Canon. So we've had an exciting time with the foxes. We've had a few kites, we've had a buzzard on the ground. I've recorded the back screen of both cameras with the two lenses. So we'll see how the autofocus worked, how it locked on, tracked. coming. And we'll look at the image quality when we get back to the studio. So see you back at the studio. So these are the images straight out of the camera. There's been no editing done to them. The first thing you're going to notice is that the colour balance is slightly different. Now the Canon I did shoot in the afternoon rather than the morning, so whether that altered it or whether it is coatings on the actual Canon lens, I don't know. But as regards sharpness and image quality, I think the two are very matched. In some circumstances the Fuji is slightly more sharp than the Canon, but then again the ISO on the Canon was a little bit higher due to the lower light. But no, very pleased. So we've seen the footage from the Fox Hide, and it's quite interesting, the actual speed and accuracy of the AF systems on the Fuji and the Canon attached to the Fringer Pro 2, basically the same. If you hadn't been told what lens they were, I don't think you'd have noticed. They both performed excellently, and yeah, I was happy with the results from both. And then looking at the final image quality, obviously I've looked at more images than what I've put up on the video, and they're very, very close. There's not a lot in it. Alright, the colour balance was a bit off on the Canon, and the only things I can think of about the cause of that was either because it was slightly later in the evening and the XS10 didn't quite get the colour balance right, or it could be the coatings on the Canon lens that gives it a bit of a shift, but it's easily remedied with the raw files. I've adjusted them in Lightroom, and yeah, they match up. The actual image quality, the sharpness is near enough identical. The XS10 was running a slightly higher ISO, so it lost a little bit of sharpness in them, but when they're evened out, yeah, I was happy with either lens. You couldn't really distinguish between the two. So coming back to the original question, if you've got, and I've had to hand the 100 to 400 Canon back, but if you've got the 100 to 400 and you're moving from Canon to Fuji, looking to purchase a Fuji, and you say you've got those Canon lenses, is it worth selling that 100 to 400 and getting the Fuji 100 to 400? Personally, I don't think so. You might as well keep that Canon lens, and I would recommend the Fringer Pro 2 adapter, even if it costs you £300, because you've obviously got other lenses other than just the 100 to 400, and you can use those as well. Just check the compatibility list on Fringer's website just to see if it's on there, then you know they will work. Some of the other ones do work as well, but the ones on the list seem to work well, and the 100 to 400 Mark 1 and 2 are both on that list. Now if you've not got any Canon lenses and you're thinking, I need something like the 100 to 400, I would say in the second-hand market, if you can find a really good deal on the Canon 100 to 400 and probably a good deal on a second-hand Fringer Pro 2 adapter, that might be the way to go. But if you can't, then you might as well get the Fuji 100 to 400. If you can find it second-hand, that's fine enough. Otherwise, save up for a new lens. As regards the Canon versus Fuji lenses, I think with the 100 to 400, they're so close that it's got to be your choice. But if you've got the 100 to 400 Canon, I'd keep it. If you haven't, you've just got to look at what the deals are going on. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscription button. But please hit that like button so I can boost the channel up. Till next time, see you later.